Hello everyone and welcome to a Bear Review special as we embark today upon a new Indie Sideshow. And this episode comes about thanks to the developers themselves. While delving ever deeper into the world of indie gaming, I found myself perusing the shelves of itch.io and saw this funny little platformer made entirely out of Playdough. And yes, the artwork is definitely going to be an acquired taste, and there's certainly some areas that could have used a little bit more polish coming up towards the end, but it was definitely enough to turn my head. As it turns out, the developer of that very game reached out to say, "I'd like to know what you think." Honestly, I have not played a decent platformer since Rayman, so game on. Now the very idea of Schmutznik is an intriguing one. An entire game world built from the ground up using Playdough, alongside a little computer wizardry to poly up those animations, and all without your character jumping. To get around the map of each cave, your little robot Schmutznik will need to use their head, literally. You'll need to stick it to the ceilings and pull your body up to then drop down to the next level through a simple control system that you'll pick up as you go. Though I will add here that there is an actual tutorial, but I only played it after completing the entire game, so trust me when I say you'll figure out all of the controls quick enough just by playing. That said, do make sure to check the About section, as it is going to be your main source for the story, as well as on how the red fungi are created, as that one legitimately confused me. Within the levels of each cave, your mission is to discover the reason for the occurrence of a strange slime, and how it's been changing the creatures and plants that live inside. Now remember when I said to check that About section? That's because before I read that section, I actually didn't know any of this. I started off thinking that I was skimming on blocks of gas, revealing eggs, and just being a cute little robot, having the time of their lives. Because that really was enough, because to me this game wasn't really about the story. It had one for sure, but in the spirit of classic games where an extra line of text meant losing a boss or two, this game was all about the journey. And in their own words, the dev described Schmutznik as having been inspired by the 8-bit games of the Atari 800 XL. And it shows. Now the 8-bit era was a little before my time, but thanks to my dad I have played some and was brought up during the 16-bit era, so fairly similar. Though I should note that a few of those games did actually have a story. In between the constant replays of Cadillacs and dinosaurs and the caramello-addled corners of my mind, this cub came to the conclusion that games were made to be played, not read. Unless it's a VN, in which case fair play. But you start the game, press a button to make something move, and find out just what on screen you're controlling. Then just follow your intuition, explore the level, interact with whatever you find, and find yourself back in that bygone age where games trusted you to be able to figure out what was going on. As each level brings in something new, and each one can be figured out just by playing, there's always something to keep you on your toes. A lot of the game is going to come down to your ability to change and adapt to the ever-changing environment you come across. From just reaching an exit to evading monsters, running from dragons, and escaping the belly of a beast that picked on the wrong robot. The Playdough art style and initial tone of the game is genuinely deceptive. Schmutznik plays on that little gamer nerve we all have that demands you clear each level no matter what. Every time a cave beat me, I had to keep going. I shouted, ranted, and raved, but by Paddington as my witness, the cave got cleared. The mechanics are introduced at a good pace to keep you learning, and the difficulty finally balances the moments of controller-breaking acts of self-inflicted torment and the sheer satisfaction of defeating them. But thanks to the speed of restarts and the spacing of checkpoints, most of the pressure is kept off as you're testing out new routes and approaches to clearing each cave, giving you that little bit of time to experiment and discern exactly what you're going to do when the time comes. Now, all of this is not to say the game does not come with its faults. First off, the game is short. I completed the whole thing, including a break from a certain level we will come back to, where I read through the About section and had to skate off the frustration. Something I haven't done since I last played Crash Bandicoot, and now I think about it, pretty much all the tricks I know can be attributed to Road to Nowhere and DOA 4's final boss. But according to Steam, I played the game for just over 2 hours, and completed it. It does keep the game from overstaying its welcome, but if you aren't interested in speedruns or no-hit runs, then there really isn't much replay value. And considering that your health meter is also your timer, getting hit is kind of a double failure. And coming back to that level I mentioned, level 24 pretty much brought together the main issues I had with this game. Your character can't jump, but you can use platforms to make them bounce. These work great in open spaces, but at times the platforms above you will actually cut your jump short and result in a very awkward timing. Combine this with a very harsh screen shake and a series of pixel perfect platforms, it was almost enough to end my run there and then. But when you finally get past it, you'll get that feeling you had way back when of shouting out to your brother that you'd finally defeated it, before of course hitting the next level, getting wiped in 10 seconds and handing over the controller. The mechanics of each level are easy enough to figure out within a couple of lives with a few exceptions. The boss battles on the other hand can be a little obtuse, with some I cleared quite quickly before I could really plot out their attack patterns or the best routes to take. In fact, now I mention it, there is a vague feeling of randomness on a few levels where the pressure was dropped pretty much entirely, thanks to a solid start that meant that the enemy could no longer keep up with me, or even spawn in some cases. But in all the game, there was only one level that I ever just washed my hands and completely gave up on, where the bubbles were finally bested by a left hand alone during a coffee break. The ultimate weapon in a gamer's arsenal. At the end of it all, Schmutznik is an ambitious title from a genuinely dedicated developer, taking a crazy concept and seeing it all the way through to the end. It's rough around the edges, which is ironic for Playdough, but the care went in and the gameplay comes through. Seeing your itty-bitty robot clearing slime and discovering the secrets of the cave. And if you're a fan of indie platformers, or have a soft spot for retro gaming, then this might be worth a look at, as despite its faults, Schmutznik's kept me engaged to the end. Be it the want to see the next boss, a chance to check out some new Playdough art, or simply that gamer's nerve, forcing me to rise to each and every challenge. And when that challenge was finally cleared, there was a distinct smile on this bear's face. And on the note of this bear smiling, to all of you who've made it this far, thank you a ton for sticking around and checking out the video. And if you're into seeing more of these reviews coming up, then don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section, as I'd love to know what you guys think. But till next time, as always, peace out.